Please join me in pledging allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any comments from the audience? How about corrections to the agenda or the consent calendar?
Approval of the consent calendar. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Motion passes unanimous. Okay, that moves to 6A, and we are going to consider virtual board meetings related to Assembly Bill 361, an emergency proclamation.
Yes, virtual meetings. So we implemented virtual meetings last year due to COVID, and Assembly Bill 361 allows for continued virtual meetings at this point through December 2023. And Gary might want to comment on that later, but right now it's set up to go through the end of next year. And this requires that the board reauthorize virtual meetings every 30 days. And we noticed that DORADO Water Agency, for example, they've been doing this, which allows us to participate virtually and avoid the extensive driving to and from Placerville. If our board authorizes virtual meetings, we have a number of options in regards to how we administer the virtual meeting, and Chris will be elaborating on that in a little bit. But for our committee meetings, if we authorize this, we can then participate virtually, and I think it's very straightforward. For the committee meetings, you can use MS Teams, and you can simply join the meeting virtually or call in. So I think that would be helpful, especially for the committee meetings. Now back to the board meetings, it gets a little more complex, and the impacts on staff time can be pretty significant depending on how we want to do it. Just to put all the different systems together, and maybe Chris will come up and kind of take us through that a little bit and lay out some of the options available to the board for virtual board meetings.
Good afternoon. So the IT industry was challenged when COVID hit with the sudden remote work requirements, and the industry is currently being challenged with organizations trying to accommodate a hybrid workforce. We're not the only agency struggling to find a secure, easy to manage hybrid meeting solution for public meetings. A quick search on the NESAC forums shows that agencies large and small are asking this question almost on a monthly basis. So for the district, actually let me bring up what the city of South Lake Tahoe is doing. So the city of South Lake Tahoe, for example, currently runs hybrid council meetings. However, they require the use of 2 full-time staff and a contractor dedicated to running all the technology required to produce that effective council meeting. So for the district, I see 3 options for the board to consider. One, we can go with the hybrid meetings. These are highly complex, technologically involved meeting environments where a lot can go wrong. During COVID, in the remote work phase, IT was using 2 different laptops and managing 4 to 5 different pieces of software to make those work. So, because during this period, IT projects were placed on hold, and a good portion of the district staff were working remotely, IT had some additional bandwidth to be able to support hybrid board meetings during that time. So now, IT meetings or IT projects have resumed, and the majority of staff is back on site. So our bandwidth is no longer there. So at this point, we would need to hire or contract out a function, a technological advanced contractor to run the board meetings if we chose to go with hybrid meetings. We could stay with in-person. This method is a reliable and proven public meeting process that's always worked. It requires no full-time staff to operate the meeting. And then we could go full remote. Full remote would definitely decrease the amount of technology complexity in our board meetings. But we would be dependent on other systems that we don't run here on site. So go to a meeting, Zoom, go to webinar, all those systems can go out without any advance notice. So we could find ourselves in a situation where we can't put on a public board meeting without any notice. So with that, my recommendation would be to allow for standing committee meetings to use Microsoft Teams for the hybrid solution, because there's really no expectation or advanced expectation of public participation in those. And we continue the public board meetings in person as the most reliable public meeting solution.
And for those in-person meetings, could a board member call in if it was known that they weren't going to be able to make it?
I'm not sure what
There's a couple ways that we could do it. We could go back to the old Brown Act way, or the still Brown Act way, where we post the location of where that board member is going to be calling in from. They have to post an agenda at their location, and they have to be on a phone that can be publicly heard. So they're speaking and calling from wherever it is they are, and it's on speakerphone, so that anybody around them who wants to participate in the meeting can. Or we could provide a phone number for them to call in and participate in the meeting, but they wouldn't be able to see any of the presentations going on. They wouldn't be able to watch us live time during the meeting. They would only be able to be on the phone call overhead, which creates a little bit of support need, but not to the extent of trying to live stream the meeting and do all the things that, require the extra IT expertise that I really don't have.
Yeah, I think that, I like the staff recommendation on that, so, makes a lot of sense.
I would agree. I prefer to do in person. We can keep it simple, keep the costs down as much as possible.
But I do like the committee meetings being in those teams. We need a small room for this. It just makes a lot more sense. We can do committee meetings in those teams, but the board meetings, continue this. That makes sense.
I agree. I've always preferred to be here, not to be using technology. So that's my vote as well. But I do think it is good for meetings to be able to comment.
Okay. Gary, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, if you adopt the resolution, you're not mandated to have remote meetings. You have the option as you move forward to keep if you want to do the hybrid approach, keep the board meetings in person, do your standing committee meetings remote. Or if you decide you want to, if there's something on a standing remote committee that you want to do in person, you can do it in person. You just notice it how you would normally do it. So you have that flexibility. You're not, if I adopt this resolution, you're not mandating that you have to do a remote. It just allows you an option.
And keep in mind that the resolution would need to be re-adopted every 30 days.
So we'll just put it on the agenda. Yeah.
Question? So things like board workshops, do they fall in a standing committee meeting category or the board meeting category?
That's a good question. It would be a notice of forum that we would post. What are your thoughts there on that?
I think it would depend on what the board's preference is. The board could elect to have the workshop be in person, or they could elect to be remote, or what we heard is not preferable is combination. So you still have that option with the board workshops.
Yeah, this resolution gives us flexibility.
Yes.
In both ways. Okay. So I think with that, I can make the request for action. Approve resolution number 3205-22, allowing for South Tahoe Public Utility District to conduct virtual public meetings through March 3rd, 2022.
Move to the vote. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. That motion passes unanimously.
I move approval of payment claims in the amount of $1,442,855.
Second.
Standing and ad hoc committees and liaison reports.
I'll just go on the DORADO one, since that before. We do have an DORADO water agency, meeting next Wednesday. We haven't had one since our last report. Nothing to report on. And no other committee activity on
We had an affordable housing meeting after the last board meeting, and are we going to talk about that today or some other point? But just looking at alternatives to connection fees and looking at square footages in comparison to the current sewer approach.
We do have, intend to have a full board presentation, the next meeting.
Board member reports? I have none.
I participated in the Alpine Biomass Committee Collaborative meeting on Tuesday night, and a lot of people from various resources agencies, NRCS, BLM, Forest Service, etc. It sounds like they're moving forward with some seeding operations this week on BLM lands, and they are preparing a fence line along the reservoir there. And yeah, it sounds like they're just doing a lot of work down there. I also announced the recycled water strategic plan, let them know that the meeting was coming up on 8th. So hopefully there's some participation from them on that front.
And we already heard about that. Is staff or, yeah,
Good afternoon, board members. Actually, have a presentation for you today. The update of the alternative plan. And, okay, great. So, my last update to you was in November of last year. So about 3 months ago. Over the past 3 months, our project team has completed multiple drafts of the first 5-year update of the district's alternative plan. On December 17th, we were at the point where we were comfortable with issuing a working draft of the alternative plan that went out to our stakeholders advisory group. In early January, we convened a workshop with stakeholders to walk through the document with the SAG and solicit initial input. And so I put a end date for comments around January 20th. So through the end of last week, we received staff comments from TRPA, City of South Lake Tahoe, U.S. Forest Service, Mountain Regional Water Quality Control Board, and DORADO County Water Agency. There were close to about 60 comments that we received, and those have all been incorporated into the working draft. And so we're about ready to release it as a public draft for comment next week. And so the plan is to start or post the document on the district and DORADO Water Agency websites. The document itself won't be there. There will be a link to the document, and we're going to publish a notice of availability informing the public that the comment period, 30-day comment period, is going to start next Wednesday, February 9th, and it's going to run until Friday, March 11th. It's going to be published in the Tahoe Tribune, Mountain Democrat. And we're also going to send emails with the notice of availability to our interested party list members. They'll probably have over 100 people on that. And so it's going out. And so that's what I want to kind of bring your attention to, so you have an idea what's out there. So we're gonna start this. I'm gonna try to make it brief, but I just want to start with a little review about what groundwater sustainability agencies are and what they're required to do under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. So a groundwater sustainability agency is one or more local agencies that have water supply, water management, or land use responsibilities for a particular groundwater basin. GSAs are responsible for completing a groundwater sustainability plan or an approved alternative to a groundwater sustainability plan, and then implementing that plan for its groundwater basin. The statutory date is January 31st, 2022. Last board meeting, I explained to you as far as the notice that we provided to DWR that we were going to be a little late with this plan, but we do not expect any repercussions for not meeting that requirement. So one of the reasons that we don't expect repercussions is because our alternative plan has already been approved. In December 2016, the district submitted its existing 2014 groundwater management plan to the Department of Water Resources for evaluation as an alternative. In July 2019, DWR completed its evaluation of that document and the associated plans documents that we submitted along with the groundwater management plan, and they approved it as an alternative to a GSP for our subbasin. So along with that DWR approval, the alternative, one of the new requirements that we have to satisfy is periodic review. And you're supposed to resubmit your alternative for periodic review to the Department of Water Resources on a 5-year schedule. So the document that's being released next week is the first 5-year update of that alternative. So how did we get to the point where we needed to satisfy these requirements? Well, California groundwater basins are classified according to a basin prioritization process. So under this process, they use a consistent set of criteria to classify each groundwater basin. And UWR has twice classified our subbasin, the Tahoe Valley South subbasin, as a medium priority basin. They did it first in 2015, and then they looked at it again, and the second time that they did it in 2018, they also came to the same conclusion. So the characteristics that led DWR to a medium priority designation for our basin were the following. It was, we have a moderate population density. However, we have a large number of wells. We have a long history of use of groundwater, resulting in a high reliance on groundwater for drinking water supply in our area. And we also have a pretty well-known history of groundwater contamination in our subbasin. So the subbasin, the district and El Dorado County water agencies are recognized as the sustainable agencies for our subbasin. The district area is the greenish tinted portion of the subbasin. So here's the outline of the subbasin in blue. And in green is the district's area of responsibility for the subbasin, which is about 85% of the subbasin area. And so those, the portion of the subbasin as defined by the Department of Water Resources, which are within the district's service area jurisdiction. The areas outside the district's jurisdiction are these areas. These are primarily non-developed areas outside of the district's boundary, but within the subbasin, and those fall under the authority of the El Dorado County Water Agency, Sustainability Agency. So, under under the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, GSAs must manage groundwater resources considering the interests of all beneficial uses and users of groundwater within our subbasin. So that you can break these down. There are a lot of different categories, but for this presentation, I broke them down into two broad categories. First being well owners. So we have a multitude of different types of well owners within the basin. And that includes public water systems, large and small community water systems, domestic well owners. These are the primary group. The environmental users of groundwater are represented by these areas, and it doesn't show very well up in the slide, but kind of light green areas. Shane is probably very familiar with those. Those are stream environment zones that have been mapped by the TRPA. And the other group of environmental users primarily are groundwater dependent ecosystems. So those are ecological communities that reside within these stream environment zones. So both the SEZs, the plant communities, as well as the ecological communities, the broader ecological communities that reside within stream environment zones are also dependent on groundwater for their continuance. So they're recognized as another user of groundwater within the basin. So, what's in this draft alternative plan? I'll just quickly give you a high-level overview of what's in there. So, the alternative plan is presented in 10 sections plus an executive summary. The first 4 sections provide kind of general background information on kind of laid the foundation for the alternative plan. Section 1 deals primarily with regulatory context. Plan authorization, legal authority, highlights changes made to the alternative plan since adoption of the original plan in 2014. Section 2 provides a general physical, hydrologic, and hydrologic description of our groundwater basin. Section 3 focuses on a description of groundwater uses and users within the subbasin. And Section 4 provides a discussion on related public agencies and regulatory programs. The major technical sections of the alternative plan are presented in sections 5, 6, and 8. Section 5 is a summary of current groundwater conditions, and these include technical discussions on groundwater surface water interactions, historical, current, and projected 50-year water budgets, assessments of potential overdraft and climate change impacts, along with a sustainable yield derived from the South Tahoe groundwater model for the subbasin. Section 6 provides an overview and assessment of groundwater quality from groundwater data that's been collected over the past 10 years. Section 8 is kind of the heart as far as addressing the interests of DWR under SIGMA, which is the assessment of undesirable results. And so this uses sustainable management criteria, which have been developed specifically for our subbasin. The bottom line with that assessment is that it demonstrates under current conditions that undesirable results do not occur currently within our subbasin, which is good news. Section 7 provides a summary of groundwater management work which has been completed over the past 5 years in collaboration with our stakeholders group. It also identifies potential new opportunities for collaboration with our group. Section 9 is an updated description of the groundwater monitoring network, and there's also a new section that's been added which discusses data gaps in the current monitoring program, These are primarily with regard to monitoring of great water quality, groundwater monitoring within or near SEZs, and incorporating inputs from upcoming new fifth assessment generation global climate change models, which are expected to be coming out. They were expected to be coming out this year. It looks like it may be until next year that we see them, but the groundwater model is set up to receive inputs from those updated climate change models, and we believe that will improve precipitation estimates that we use in the climate scenarios for looking at climate change impacts on the basin. The last section, section 10, the implementation plan. The implementation plan updates the plan that was in the 2014 groundwater management plan. These are provided in tabular format, listed in a ongoing, short-term, which is, well, ongoing is ongoing. Short-term is over the next 5 years, and then actions that are going to be taken or considered for looking at are those that would require more than 5 years to fully resolve for our subbasin. So Section 10 also provides a summary of the first 5-year costs of implementation. It also provides an estimate of base costs needed to maintain the groundwater management program under SIGMAs. So over the first 5 years, or since 2015, we've spent over $2 million on the groundwater management plan. Costs ranged from a little over $300,000 to as high as close to $600,000 within a year. And a lot of that depends on the level of activities, which is primarily investigations that are being done kind of under this umbrella of groundwater management. So if you take a look at the 5-year average, it's about $415,000 per year. How did we afford this? Well, the district ponied up about 46% of those costs, or about a little over $950,000 over the past 5 years. Reimbursement from the EWA cost share program contributed about 33% of those total costs, and the remaining 20% or so was provided by state grants, and that's primarily what funded the satellite feasibility study. So what we did in the plan, in order to provide budgetary guidance, we used we projected a budget based on assumptions about a minimal level of investigation to inform future groundwater management actions. So what we did was we took 25% of the first 5-year average cost of implementation, which is about $100,000, and that's what looking at it, and seems reasonable. And then every 5th year, for periodic review, the extra effort for periodic review, we're coming up with a cost, or we're estimating 35% of the first year 5-year average cost of implementation, which is close to about $145,000 for that 5th year. In Section 10, I want to highlight Section 10.2.2. There's a discussion there about the use of signal fee authority to help fund future groundwater management activities presented in the implementation plan. We have not done that over the first 5 years. So that is a potential option that I suspect will be a topic of discussion and consideration over the next 5 years. So what kind of value do we get out of this? What are we doing? What are the benefits? So thinking about this, here's my kind of short list as to why I think we're getting, I guess, value from this work. First, local control. The Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, one of the primary aims of that is to enable local agencies to take a leading role in the management of their groundwater resources. The other option is non-compliance, and what that would involve could be possible intervention and the imposition of annual groundwater extraction fees on us all, and all users of groundwater within our basin. Under the state water board's extraction fee schedule, it's $10 per well plus $40 an acre foot. At a low point, the district produces more than 5,000 acre feet per year. So you're looking at, for the district, our share of that might be about $225,000 per year. And we would be under the control and management of the state water board. So whatever they told us we got to do, that's what we have to do.
That's per year, you know?
Yeah. So grant funding, that is now pretty much a general condition of state funding, that your local agency is in good standing with the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. So it allows us to continue application for state funding. The authorities that come with the GSA, it allows the district to adopt rules, regulations, ordinances, resolutions to implement our groundwater management plan. Conduct investigations for the purposes of determining the need for groundwater management, to prepare or amend our alternative plan and implement rules and regulations. We could require wells to be registered. We could require well operators to meter and report extractions. We could acquire property and water rights. We could reclaim water, impose fees, and undertake enforcement actions if we needed to. So on the brighter side, interagency collaboration. I think over the past 5 years, we've strengthened our existing working relationships with a multitude of agencies within the basin. These improved relationships have led to open up a greater potential for funding opportunities for groundwater-related projects. And what this leads to, I think, again, with these improved relationships, building awareness about the importance of groundwater, is that the district, as you all know, is the largest user of groundwater within the basin. So we have greatest interest in maintaining a long-term supply and protection of this groundwater resource, which we use, again, 100% relying on for drinking water to our customers. Now, what SIGMA does is that it takes a big picture view, or it forces local agencies to take a big picture view of groundwater management that existing agencies really do not have. They have a more focused target. Take Lahart, for instance. I mean, their focus is on water quality. We take a broader view of it, and in that role, we're able to kind of knit these different programs with different focuses to work together to improve the stewardship of this resource, which I think is in the best interest of our customers. So those are, I guess, some of my thoughts and different thoughts about the benefits of this program. But where we go from here, so as far as next steps, Next week, we're going to release a document for 30-day comment period. Now, the 30-day comment period is voluntary, and we're doing this out of our public outreach effort for the document. We're going to prepare a summary of comments and responses to comments, and then we're going to bring the draft alternative plan along with the summary of comments and responses, which are going to be an appendix to the document. First will be a public hearing to adopt the resolution, to adopt the alternative plan done by the county water agencies in early April. And then about a week later, the district will have a public hearing, so we'll notice that public hearing. That is a required hearing for the document. So we will bring the document to you that's complete, that's incorporated comments from agencies and public comments received during the 30-day comment period to you for adoption on April 21st. And then following that, we will submit the adopted alternative plan to the Board of Water Resources. So, if you have any questions, you have to answer them now. I will send out, there'll be a notice of availability that's going to be on the district's website. There'll also be a link on the district website on the Groundwater Management Plan for that document. If you'd like to have a paper copy of it, just give me a ring, and I'll be happy to provide it to you as well.
Could you tell us what the projected next 5-year cost is?
Well, if you take it 100,000 a year, 4 years, the last one was 145. It's $545,000.
Yeah, it looks like the program cost was about $2 million, and our portion was
But again, the projected costs, that's assuming that the level of investigation is going to be a lot lower over the next 5 years.
Yeah, that's what it's kind of how much lower?
Well, I mean, again, I'm saying 25%, so that's substantially lower than when we were, over the first 5 years to develop the information that was needed to satisfy the requirements of what I want to mention.
Okay, so I'm a little confused. So the overall program cost will drop to like $500,000 over the next 5 years.
Yes.
I don't know if that our portion is still 25% of the $500,000.
No, that would be, assuming that we're partnering again through this program with County Water Agency. 50% reimbursement, so cut that in your account. So $250,000.
Thank you.
Can you characterize some of the input that we received from our partners on the plan? Was there anything substantive coming out of them in terms of concerns or?
I think most. First off, I think all the comments that we received were constructive. They were primarily, clarifications. I asked specifically for the agencies to get it right as far as how to characterize your agency, your role, current activities that involved in with regard to groundwater. So there were a lot of comments in that we received Forest Service and TRPA. There was additional information on a number of comments. I'm thinking about the comments received from the city with regard to stormwater management basin. County Water Agency comments, a lot of them provided, again, good ideas, positive input as far as other things to consider as far as county water agency role and how that can be some of the things that they wanted us to highlight that did not include in the document were added. I think that's pretty much the general nature of it. Gary, did you, am I missing something?
That's fine. I'm just curious if there's any showstoppers in there.
No, not at all.
And then with respect to data gaps, monitoring gaps, what is that looking like? What are we missing?
Well, I think one of we did get some good suggestions. So with degraded water quality, I think rightly so. I mean, that's not a component of our monitoring program. We do not go out there and collect water quality samples outside of the samples that the district has to collect to meet its Title 22 requirements for drinking water wells. So the data that we rely on for assessing groundwater quality is limited to that which is reported to state databases. There's a lot of local water quality information that's gathered by agencies that's not reported to the state. So kind of one of the things that are suggested in there is that maybe we start requesting that information to supplement the data that we get from state databases. The other idea is to maybe work with stormwater managers to expand the list of analytes that they look at, because really it's so limited that stormwater and emerging contaminants, primarily PFAS, those are going to be big issues in the next 5 years. Those are things that we're going to be, I'm sure that we're going to be interested in taking a look at. So working with partners to gather that kind of information to see if there's an issue up here, I think that's important. And then the last thing was doing groundwater elevation monitoring. So we have network now, but we really haven't, as far as development of the network is basically it's an agglomeration of wells that have been taken to the surface. It may be test wells that were drilled, completed, but not turned into a water supply well. Really, the wells are not suited to monitor groundwater levels in extreme environments. Now, there are agencies such as the Conservancy, Forest Service, state parks, which have those networks. Working with those agencies we're going to look to see if there are existing wells that we can use in their monitoring networks to do groundwater elevation monitoring for those areas or for specific areas to see if it's an issue or not. We may have to install some wells, if we can't find any that would satisfy our needs. So those are as far as data gaps, I think those are the big ones.
And then with respect to the climate projection data, are we working with scripts and UCLA and some other efforts to downscale and project the climate out?
Well,
Or are we waiting up for that?
we're actually working with USGS, Michael Dettinger. So Michael Dettinger works closely with Scripps and UCLA, and so they're actually, Michael Dettinger is working with TRPA currently. They were waiting on the 5th generation global climate models to start their work, but they decided that they can't wait any longer. And so they're basically working on using the same climate models which we use for the alternative plan for our 50-year water budget projections. So we are definitely tied in with that. And one of the things that we had a meeting with them within the past couple of weeks, and I expressed our strong desire to get information about whatever updated PURVS model there is for that, for the basin, looking at primarily recharge numbers that would be helpful for us, for our groundwater model. And also, there's a couple of groundwater surface water model that will also need to be updated when those 5th generation models come out. So we'll definitely be, kept plugged in and involved with that. Again, to benefit what we're doing with our South Tahoe groundwater model.
Maybe I'll add just a couple of comments. The level of effort to take where we started from with the groundwater management plan, the 2014 groundwater management plan, to what EVO has orchestrated into the alternative plan is an unbelievably heavy lift. To modify that document to comply with the Sigma requirements. EVO's been working closely with Desert Research Institute from a technical standpoint and others that some of you mentioned today. He's also worked extensively with our office on ensuring that what is produced in the document meets the checklist of things that have to be in the plan. So this will serve as a very good foundational document for the district going forward. It's not something you're going to have that sort of effort to rewrite every 5 years. You're going to have to update it every 5 years, and each year you have to provide an annual report. But it's not the level of effort that has been occurring this last 5 years. And I will say, you're lucky to have EVO here. I think he's done a masterful job of putting this together and orchestrating it. It's quite impressive. It's a big document, and I don't know if anyone really wants to read it all, but it is very thorough, and I think will serve the district well in the future in guiding the implementation plan and the things we have to do going forward, not just for making sure that our groundwater is protected, but also I think just as important is keeping the state board from sticking its nose here when we probably don't need their help. And so the local control, local management is really, really important. So, but it's certainly, I would at least encourage you to read the executive summary of it. And then, if there's things that pique your interest, look at those sections. But in my opinion, it's a very impressive piece of work. So, kudos to you and everybody else who worked on it.
Thank you. I just wanted to let you know that it's so good that it's going to be issued in 2 volumes, not 1. The first volume's the main body of it, and the second volume's just going to be the appendices. So if you're interested in looking at the appendices, go to volume 2. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I believe this to be posted on our website when that's complete. Is that correct?
Yes.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to inform the board on the progress on the Recycled Water Strategic Plan. And basically, the impetus of that is we have our first public meeting scheduled for Tuesday, February 8th at 4 p.m. Or 5. It'll be virtual. We had to make the call on that. Things weren't looking so good COVID-wise, so we decided to keep that virtual for this first public meeting. And so it'll be basically an overview of kind of what our plans are for this Recycled Water Strategic Plan to kind of go through the process. Why we're doing it, why now, and let the public know that what our public engagement is going to look like on it. It is we started back in November. We hope to be done by the end of June in 2024. So it's an almost 3-year process that we're going to be going through. And we've also formed a stakeholder advisory group that consists of a cross-section of our community that will that we will use as a sounding board and to help us get feedback from the community as well as just from the general public. So this first meeting is open to both the general public and the stakeholder advisory group, and then we will have, in the future, we'll have probably separate meetings for the stakeholder advisory group, and maybe a little bit more frequent with the public, just to get their feedback and make sure that's incorporated into what we're doing. And then we will have other opportunities for public input as well. And that kind of covers it all. So I just wanted, we do have a notice of quorum drafted up in case there are enough board members that are going to be planning on attending on Tuesday. So I wanted to put out those feelers. I know 2 of our board members aren't here, so we probably should just post it just in case. And if there's any questions on the overall plan and what our progress is, then I did forget. I will certainly be coming back to the board on a regular basis to give updates on where we are and where we're headed. And if we need to do separate board workshops, we certainly can do those as well. So, if there's any questions?
I plan on being there. I don't know if anybody else does, but I'll be there on Tuesday.
Great.
Yeah, I'd like to be on the call. I'd like to listen in, but I'd also like an opportunity at some point for the board to hear the comment and a little back and forth. So perhaps a board workshop would be appropriate at some point in time. But I'd rather not chime in and engage the public. I don't think that's appropriate, but I think the board, a lot of times our interactions are pretty constructive.
Yeah, and this first meeting is really going to be just a very high level of this is the process we're going to go through, and this is why. We're not going to dive into too many alternatives. We're not going to really dive into alternatives at all. We're going to talk about the categories of alternatives, but we're not going to get too far into the weeds this first meeting.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Please keep.
Can I ask one question? Is there anticipation that there could be more than 2 board members listening in?
Have you heard from Nick? I haven't heard from Nick, but I assume he will. Possibly.
Yeah, I have not heard.
We might want to post a notice for them.
Yeah, we are. I have drafted that.
Great.
Thank you.
I had one thing, just not yours. Just a quick update, and Julie can throw something at me if I'm saying something I shouldn't say.
I'll stare at you.
Okay. We had, Julie had just gotten information from, on the solar project, updated information from Core and ProStar, just yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah.
Yesterday. And so we're looking at that. We're going to talk about that internally and then bring that to the ad-hoc committee for discussion. And we may have one meeting with, prior to the ad-hoc meeting, one meeting with Core and ProStar to talk about what they gave us, they didn't give us. And then we'll bring the ad-hoc committee up to speed, and then we'll see where we go from there. But I just wanted to make you aware that it has been a long time since they have provided the updated information we requested, but they finally have provided us something, so it's still in the works.
Thanks, Kelly. We'll start out with a few updates on staffing in underground repair water. Jimmy Drown will be starting with us on February 8th, and he comes to us with many years of experience with paint construction. So looking forward to Jimmy joining us. And for a grants coordinator, this is Lynn's position. That advertisement closed on January 19th, and we're now reviewing 11 applications and time to schedule interviews February 16th. And then we also just received a retirement notice in plant operations and also a resignation in the lab. And actually we have some representatives from the lab with us here today, Ann, Jamie, and Kevin. Thanks for joining us. So it's shaping up to be a pretty busy year for recruitments here for the district. COVID-19 update. We had 3 new COVID cases last week and just 1 so far this week. I sent out an email to the board yesterday, I believe, sharing our caseload since early December. And it started at 1, the next week it went to 6, and then 4, and then 11 cases about 3 weeks ago. That dropped to 8, 3 last week, and then, as I said, just 1 so far this week. And it seems like a lot of our COVID cases were coming from the schools, school-aged children that brought it home. And we also see cases plummeting at the schools. So I think that's a great sign for us. There's just a single COVID positive case at the magnet school right now. So I think that's a good purveyor for us. So my last item is the 2022 general manager goals. And also earlier this week, I sent the board my latest working draft of the 2022 board goals for the general manager. I've incorporated all comments from board members into that. And so today they are presented really as a proposed set of goals for your comment and approval. And looking at the goals, while there are many goals, over 70 again, I do find it helpful to have this many in this format, as generally they're specific and measurable. Some are ongoing, but I feel like I can then meet with my managers as a group and individually on each of these goals throughout the year and really make some great progress, as I feel we did last year, even during COVID and the COBRA. Our managers know that I'll be tracking and reporting on all these goals to the board, and that seems to create an environment for better progress and, I think, expectations of achievement. On that previous email, I highlighted 10 of these goals, which I think may be of particular interest to you, and so I wanted to point them out in particular. And today I'd just like to elaborate on I think 4 of those and see if the board has any comments here today, and then just open it up to the board thereafter for any other thoughts and direction. So I'm just kind of looking at the email I sent on Tuesday, and I wanted to point out goal 2B, which is to facilitate effective board and committee meetings, consider virtual meetings as we did today, and investigate ways to reduce perhaps the number of board meetings. I'm really looking to be more efficient with your time here and still give you all the information you need to make good decisions. So I guess a little more context on that. The meeting duration seems to be declining overall. I know we've had a kind of a number of very short meetings, which I think is an anomaly. I think December and January are generally very light as well. But I started to look at board meeting durations. Here's like 3 years worth. So I kind of want to study them a little bit and then look at this is 17, 18, and 19. Look at 2020 and 2021, which are unique in their own ways, but it seems like every year something comes up, whether it's a fire or COVID or the keys or solar or whatever it might be. So I think roughly right now board meetings are average about 90 minutes. And, if you go to once a month, as a board prepared to have 3-hour meetings, what would be the preference? But anyway, this is one of the goals. If you agree, I'll look into this issue and bring some ideas back to the board. And with your approval, I'll continue to work with Paul, and Gary, and Melanie on these items. Any thoughts or comments on this proposed goal?
I encourage fewer board meetings, and if you can do once a month, I think that would be great. To me, I think it saves staff time, more importantly than our time, I guess. But we can pack it all into one meeting a month, and then if we need to have a couple during the summer when key decisions are being made, then we can bump it up. So very encouraging of that.
We discussed it a little bit at agenda review, and I'm in favor of that as well.
Okay. Payment claims could be a little bit of a wrinkle, but like I say, we're planning to do some research on those options.
Right, to the extent you can shorten it, I agree wholeheartedly. Oftentimes it's, the staff time, just put together an agenda to run the process. It eats up a lot of of your time and takes you away from your strategic goals. I'd rather have the staff, working that job.
Okay. Sounds like we'll keep this on here. 3D, this is the Adopt the Hydrants, and definitely looking to kick off and Adopt the Hydrant program this year. This is in addition to completing our system-wide assessment of all 1,900 fire hydrants. And then kind of bouncing ahead to 5G, explore potential alternatives for future district workforce housing. And this is kind of separate from our support of community-wide affordable housing projects. I kind of see this as a really high-level exploration of options to provide direct housing options or assistance to our own new employees, perhaps for a limited period of time. Recruitment is getting harder for us in general, and it's getting much harder when it comes to applicants coming from outside our immediate area. They're looking at high costs and limited inventory for both homes for sale and for rent. We've had top applicants back out when they come here and experience this firsthand. So I really see this as, has strategic importance and an important recruiting tool for sustainability of the organization and quality of replacement of our staff over time. We do have many more returns coming this year. So I think within this item, we'll take a look at what other agencies might be doing. Shane was telling me about a program that Mammoth has. And I've already been talking to the city manager in Barton and the school district about this, and they're very interested in participating, and they have really all the same concerns. Any thoughts or comments on this goal? Okay, and really the last one I just wanted to point out was specifically is 11F, evaluate rebranding district name and logo. So this was, I had this on for last year and we pushed it just because of other priorities. But at least one of the board members wanted me to put this back on here for 2022. If this is desired by the board, I will look into this process, the pros and cons, including the costs, and engage the board throughout the year. Any thoughts on this proposal?
I think it's worth looking at.
I'm not normally the person to push rebranding, so that's coming from somebody else. I'll go along, but it's not something that I normally have to be put on.
Shane, I think you're...
Yeah, no, I guess for me, the acronym STPUD, stupid, I guess I don't really necessarily feel that really reflects who we are, because we definitely are not stupid. I think that, the district really serves our community. I like to see it be more branded as South Tahoe Community Utility District, or STUD, South Tahoe Utility District style. I just for me, it just seems like the logo itself is pretty tired. I think there's an opportunity to update who we are, how we're reflected in the community. That's all.
Yeah, so we'll take a look at it and we'll bring it forward to the board from time to time. But DORADO Water Agency just went through a similar process, so we've had some recent experience with that and maybe what costs are associated with it. Okay. More to come on that. So that's really all I want to bring forward in detail.
As long as we don't have to go through a mission statement and, new coffee cup slogans and stuff.
Oh, that's really all I wanted to bring up in specifics. Any additional thoughts or comments from the board on the 2022 goals?
No, they look good.
Look good, very ambitious, and
Get to work.
yeah.
What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need a motion. You're about these.
No, sir. We looked into this, I think last year we They brought it up under GM reports. Do you agree with that, Gary?
The board didn't formally not pass, but they certainly can if you want.
I just don't have it. Here's an action item. So I guess board's preference, would you like me to bring this back as an action item next time?
Yeah, I think so. Well, this is the board's acknowledgement.
No problem. Okay.
Okay, we passed at future meetings, and now we're going to go into closed session.
Yep.
Okay, coming out of closed session into open session with nothing to report, and this meeting is adjourned.